And we're live. Welcome to the Couch GM Live. The Mariners have some breaking news that they have come to an agreement with the Minnesota Twins. They have acquired Jorge Polanco, second baseman. He's going to be the everyday second baseman for the Mariners in 2024. Also, 2025, we'll look at his contract in a second. But the Mariners traded for Jorge Polanco. In exchange, they've sent right-handed pitcher Anthony DeSclafani, who had a short stay with the Mariners this offseason as he was acquired by the Giants in that Robbie Ray trade. Right-handed relief pitcher Justin Topa is also headed to Minnesota, along with minor leaguers outfielder Gabriel Gonzalez and right-handed pitcher Darren Bowen. We'll look at each of these guys in a second. Initially, it sucks to see Justin Topa's name a part of that. He's just an awesome dude, great guy on the sidelines. He's going to be a great reliever for the Twins, especially if he's the one leading into Johan Duran for the Twins. But the Mariners got their impact bat that was needed to fill out the lineup. The lineup, dare I say, it looks not bad. It looks pretty decent in my opinion. We'll get into a mock lineup that I threw together, as well as some opinions on Twitter that we saw. So who is Jorge Polanco? He is a second baseman, switch hitting. And really, when you look at his splits against, he really hits left-handed pitching. So batting righty last year, if you could see the platoon splits here, against left-handed pitching, batting as a righty, he hit 310 with a 341 on-base percentage, a 483 slug, 824 OPS. Versus right-handed pitching, he hit 233, 333 on-base percentage, a 442 slug, 775 OPS. Initially, people were speculating on if he would be a platoon, if he would be hitting only against left-handed, but from what the front office has said so far, it seems like he's going to be the everyday second baseman. As Ryan Divish tweets here, Justin Hollander, the Mariners GM, stated from the beginning of this offseason, Jorge was someone we identified as a perfect fit for our roster. As a switch hitter with a long track record of success, he's also renowned around the league for his work ethic and leadership skills. We're thrilled at the opportunity to add such an impactful presence to both our lineup and the clubhouse. And then Divish also says that Hollander stated that Jorge Polanco works out with Julio Rodriguez in the offseason down in Tampa. And so if you look at Jorge, his stats as a whole, he's been in the league now for 10 years. He is heading into his age 30 season. And his career averages, he has a 269 batting average, a 334 OBP, a 446 slug, which is a 780 OPS. He's about 11% above league average total in his career. The past 3 years, however, he's been 15 to 25% better than the average hitter. So this is a solid bat that the Mariners needed, especially to fill out second base, who Josh Rojas was slotted to play second base. This now makes you think, it makes you question if Luis Arias is going to be the third baseman or if Josh Rojas is going to get some time at third base. But looking at Jorge Polanco's contract, there is a club option for 2024 and 2025. So he's due about $10.5 million in 2024. And then, $12 million for your starting second baseman with some potential impact there. The Mariners, especially with what they sent away, likely would be picking up the 2025 option for Polanco as well. They sent away, as I mentioned, Justin Topa, minor leaguers outfielder Gabriel Gonzalez, and right-handed pitcher Darren Bowen. Gabriel Gonzalez was a top 100 prospect. He was a solid outfield prospect coming up in the Mariners. I saw Joe Doyle stated that Gabriel Gonzalez was going to be ranked as the Mariners' number 7 overall prospect in their system when the new rankings come out. Justin Topa played a huge role for the Mariners in 2023 as via Baseball Reference wins above replacement. He was the most valuable relief pitcher. If you look at Fangraphs, Matt Brash edged him out a little bit, but Justin Topa was a huge producer for the Mariners. Look up Justin Topa's numbers. 2023, he pitched in 69 innings. He 75 games. Justin Topa pitched in 75 games for the Mariners in 2023. He really came out of nowhere to fill out that back end of the bullpen, right along there with Brash and Munoz. And then when Sewald was sent to Arizona, Topa played a big role in those late innings. So that's a solid get for the Twins. And then if we look at Gabriel Gonzalez. See, right now, the Gabriel Gonzalez was ranked as the third prospect. But Gabriel Gonzalez, he's a 20-year-old outfielder. He was playing in high A most recently, a 55 grade overall. Solid get for the Twins, especially with what they're sending back. And then here's a mock lineup that I just threw together. So initially on Twitter, I stated JP Crawford, Julio Rodriguez, and then Jorge Polanco. But, thinking through it a bit more and seeing some opinions on Twitter, if you have Jorge Polanco batting second, he's definitely more of a contact guy. He's got some pop. Let's take a look at his numbers. He's going to hit 15. I mean, in 2021, he had 33 home runs. And that's when he most recently played most of the season. So he does have some pop, don't get me wrong. But you have a switch, JP Crawford leading off, who led the American League in walks last year. He tied Julio Rodriguez in OPS last year because he gets on base. Then you have Jorge Polanco, a switch hitter, coming up second. And then you have Julio Rodriguez after him. I think this might be the time to where you slot Julio down to the 3 spot. And then you got Mitch Garver 4 at DH. You got Cal Raleigh switch hitting at 5. Then you got Haniger or Canzone batting 6. Then you got Luke Raley at 7, Ty France 8, Luis Arias and Josh Rojas at 9. So instead of Luis Arias and Josh Rojas batting 8 and 9, now you have one of them playing 9 on any given day. This really extends the Mariners lineup out quite a bit. It goes from, again, not so sure in the 8 and 9 to adding a guy to your 2 or 3 spot. And then now just having that 9 hole basically. And Luis Arias, you're hoping for a bounce back. Josh Rojas, you're hoping that he can just produce some innings. And let's take a look at some comments here. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. The solid pickup for the Mariners. They did give away, Gabriel Gonzalez, but again, he's 20 years old. He was a few years away. And for 2 years of potentially your second baseman, that's a solid get. And I forgot to start out the stream with this, but this might be the first trade that the Mariners front office has done in the Jerry Dipoto era or completed that Mariners fans were actually talking about all offseason. You could say predicting. Typically, it's completely out of left field to where everything that's being talked about is not what happens. But the Jorge Polanco trade, this might be that first move to where, we really did see this come in a bit. And as Stu Diston states, keeping the pitching core intact throughout this offseason has been impressive. Yeah. And that's where with the Robbie Ray trade to San Francisco, I was surprised that the Giants took on Robbie Ray's contract and that all of the speculation was, do the Mariners trade a young controllable pitcher for some bats? Who was it? One of Adam Jude, Ryan Divish were like, do the Mariners really, go and trade Luis Castillo and really get some impact back? And then you have free up the cap space or the money to be able to go sign a Blake Snell. Well, the Mariners were able to trade Robbie Ray instead. They were able to keep intact all of their starting rotation for next year. Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu. You got Emerson Hancock back there. Desclafani was looking to be a long relief guy for the Mariners, but he had a short stay, and they were able to send him to the Twins in this deal. But yeah, the fact that they were able to keep their pitching core intact, one of the the top 5 starting rotation, they have the potential to be a top 5 bullpen each year with Munoz and Brash at the back end now. They got a couple, guys, Jackson Kowar and the guy in the Seawald trade. I'm trying to think of his name, but yeah, the starting pitching core at least. Mariner Steve says, I love this deal. Yeah, you can consider it an overpay, but you're getting an all-star caliber second baseman. Bullpen may seem a little thin on paper and rotation depth, but it's not a problem. Time will tell. I don't know if this is really an overpay. You're giving up Topa, which he was solid for the Mariners last year. He does have an extended injury concern, and his last year, 2023, definitely was his outlier. I wish Topa the best, and he was amazing for the Mariners and great dude, as I mentioned, on the sidelines and I in the clubhouse too. But you're not giving up all of that much, right? You're giving up a solid reliever, which that does hurt. But then you have these other guys that you got this offseason where you throw them in the Mariners pitching lab, you never know what you're going to get back because the Mariners have done a great job at identifying guys in the offseason for the bullpen, like they did with Topa last year, what they did with Spire, Saucedo, and other guys. So these guys that they already got in these other moves, those might be the impact bullpen arms that they were needing to fill out the rotation or the bullpen. His split. So Zach Remsburg states that Jorge Polanco's career splits are even as far as batting against lefties and against righties. Let's take a look. I'll go ahead and share my screen. So here's his career totals. Yeah. So his platoon splits against righties, he's batting 269 throughout his career with an 803 OPS. So he has even a higher OPS against righties than against lefties. Last year, he had better numbers against lefties and by quite a bit as far as batting average and OPS was better. But career splits, he's hitting righties and lefties the same. And if you look back at his 2023 numbers, he did miss some time. He only played in 80 games in 2023. He played in 104 games in 2022. So injury concern there. There's really injury concern pretty much up and down the lineup for the Mariners, but you keep these guys healthy, you've got a solid lineup there. But that's promising to see. So thank you for pointing that out, Zach. Let's take a look at the depth chart for Mariners. So now in the bullpen right now, you've got Andres Munoz, who's, Munoz and Brash. One of those guys is going to be closing out every game next year for the most part. Then you got Taylor Saucedo, Gabe Spire, Trent Thornton, Austin Voth was picked up, Prelander Baroa. The couple guys that are not listed on the bullpen right now are Jackson Kowar, who was acquired in that Kelnick trade. And then with the Eugenio Suarez trade, why is his name escaping me? I'll look him up. Anyone have Carlos Vargas? That's it. Carlos Vargas was the other guy that was acquired in the Paul Sewald trade. So you throw in Jackson Kowar, Carlos Vargas. Both of those guys have some serious velocity. Jackson Kowar, go watch his highlights and go watch his changeup. It's nasty. It's like a Devin Williams changeup. And then look at Carlos Vargas. He's got the velocity. You dial in their breaking pitches. Those could be the guys to fill out this. Prelander Baroa, he has some solid potential. He just needs to get his command and control. So this bullpen could be just as good as last year, if not better even. If you're just now tuning in, the Mariners have acquired second baseman switch hitting Jorge Polanco from the Twins in exchange for right-handed pitcher Anthony DeSclafani, right-handed relief pitcher Justin Topa, and then minor leaguers outfielder Gabriel Gonzalez and right-handed pitcher Darren Bowen, as well as cash considerations. I believe the Mariners sent $500,000 to the Twins. No, wait, was it $500,000 or was it? I think it was $500,000. Yeah, I believe that's the number. But they sent a little bit of cash back. And yeah, I see some comments that here that Paredes would be a good third baseman to have, but I think at this point the Mariners' offense is filled out. I think their lineup is set after this move. I've not graded the trade. I haven't really thought about a grade for the trade, but I mean, I'd say a B plus. I'd say a solid B plus for this trade. Because I mean, in all reality, you're giving up your a quality reliever, and in my opinion, that's really all that truly matters at this point. Gabriel Gonzalez was a few years away. Darren Bowen, he's a starting pitcher prospect for the Mariners. Let me look up Darren Bowen. But you're not giving up really any. Justin Topa obviously is an impact arm out of the bullpen, but you have Carlos Vargas, you got Jackson Kowar, you got Prelander Baroa. He comes up. There's different guys that you can have to fill out that space. So yeah, Darren Bowen, he's heading into his 23-year-old season. He was in A-ball last year. Solid numbers, solid whip. Last time I looked today, he was not a top 30 prospect for the Mariners. But yeah, I'd give this trade about a B plus if I had to just throw out a number or a letter. Do you see us getting Blake Snell? I think it's possible if he'd consider taking less money to play with his home team. The number I saw today that apparently Blake Snell is asking for, this could be totally incorrect, but 9 years, $270 million is what the article that I saw today is what Blake Snell is asking for. 9 years, $30 million a year. If you know anything about the Mariners' spending habits, I don't think that's happening. You look at the deal that they signed Robbie Ray to after he won a Cy Young. You see the extension that they signed Luis Castillo to. They're not going to pay Blake Snell $200 million. And at this point, you don't need him. You really don't need him. You're not going to trade one of those young controllable guys. There was the rumors of Dylan Cease, and that apparently the White Sox were trying for a package around Bryce Miller or Brian Wu. Dylan Cease has 2 years of club control on him. Are you really going to trade 6 years of a potential top pitching prospect in Bryce Miller or Brian Wu for 2 years of Dylan Cease? Dylan Cease is potentially a frontline starter, but you don't need to make moves like that when you don't have to. Will says he's wanted them to trade for Polanco for like 3 or 4 years in a row. So happy about it. Yeah, that's definitely a guy that we've talked about in years past as being a great fit for the Mariners, and it's going to be fun to see him. I mean, this lineup, the initial moves start happening. They move for Luis Arias. They trade Gino Suarez. They trade Kelnick. All these things happening. It's like the sky is falling. What's going on? Slowly but surely, the Mariners, make some additional moves to keep building it up. And now, again, let's look at the potential lineup here. J.P. Crawford, Jorge Polanco, Julio Rodriguez, Mitch Garver, Cal Raleigh, Mitch Haniger, Dominic Canzone, Luke Raley, Ty France. If you have Ty France batting 8, that is just the gradual depth that they've been able to add, one after the other. And, when there was Luis Arias and Josh Rojas in there and Dominic Canzone and all of these guys being relied upon as the potential opening day lineup, then there was reason for concern. But they've slowly added to it. Mitch Garver at cleanup, Cal Raleigh at 5. We'll see if Mitch Haniger can stay healthy. Yeah, definitely adding out, building out that lineup, and it's definitely looking more like a contender. And then you factor in the Mariners have a top 5 starting pitching, starting rotation. And that's pretty much, that's going to be for the next few years, in my opinion. Just the way that they're set up right now, top pitching. And I was asked on a podcast, I think it was Jake with You Love to See It. He asked, would you rather have an elite rotation or an elite lineup? And 5 days or 7 days out of the week, you would take the starting rotation. Because if you can hold a team to 1 or 2 runs a game, 3 runs a game, as long as you don't, allow those blow up games, you're going to win more games when you have the better starting pitching than if you have a built out lineup, but then you have guys that have 5 ERAs. Yeah, free up pen space for Vargas or Prelander to come in and shine. Yeah, there's Carlos Vargas, there's Prelander Baroa, there's Jackson Kowar, there's, and then earlier on, there's Trent Thornton, there's, Voth, who they've just picked up. The bullpen, I think, will be just fine. Happy with the bat. Still some work to do, but today is better than yesterday. I think the Mariners offense, I think their lineup is done. They might, I don't know who else they might sign. I think they're done trading, or at least, adding to their lineup. I think that this is pretty built out. They have some solid depth here because now you have the entire lineup, and then you have Canzone on the bench. You got Josh Rojas or Luis Arias on the bench. You got, of course, Haggerty, Dylan Moore, other guys. But the depth that you have now, that's a 1 through 8 for sure is the lineup. Will said, have you talked about his K percentage and walk percentage yet? He used to be a really high contact player, but last couple of seasons he's struck out and walked a lot more. Let me take a look at that. Answer your question. I've not talked about that. Let's take a look. Advanced stats. So this is Jorge Polanco's stats here. So his strikeout percentage, has definitely gone up from about 15, 16, 18% up to 21, then to 25%. His walk percentage has also increased, it looks like. Batting average, balls in play. And also, as I mentioned, he played in only 80 games last year. He played in 104 games the year before that. So who knows if the strikeout percentage has anything to do with various injuries that were going on or that were happening. Let's take a look at his injury history in a second. Let's see. Trying to see what injuries. Okay. Polanco had ankle issues in multiple seasons, but never went on the IL. 2019, he was an all-star during the first half, but his OPS dropped by nearly 100 points in the season's second half while dealing with ankle concerns. During the 2020 season, his swing was never right at the plate. So it looks like he had ankle issues. Knee soreness during 2022. Yeah, so if he could stay healthy, Let's see here. Solid impact. I mean, even with those injuries, even with his, K percentage, walk percentage, all of those different factors, his OPS plus was 115 the last 2 years, 125 before that. Again, he was an all-star in 2019. Brandon asked if I think there's another trade cooking. I don't think so. If they were able to add an impact third baseman or an everyday third baseman, I would be surprised, but happily surprised. Looking at this lineup, I think based on, the on par for the Mariners, let's take a look at the Mariners payroll right now. But to me, this lineup looks pretty built out, and I would be pretty, I hate to say optimistic for opening day, but I'm optimistic and that's just how I am. But people can choose to look at the potential positives, potential negatives. I think there's a lot of positives with this lineup. Again, the rotation is going to be one of the best in baseball. The bullpen, even without Topa, without Seawald, these other guys that they have in there, I think it'll be a lockdown bullpen again. And then this lineup is built out. Right now, the Mariners are at 18 in payroll. This is showing 137 million. I believe they ended last year at 140, and Dipoto stated that they're going to be at or a little above where they were last year. So, they don't have room to add another 15, 20 million guy if they're going to be just right at or a little above where they were last year. This still has Anthony Desclafani. You swap that out for Polanco, that's even. So they might have a little bit more room, but I personally, just looking at this lineup, I don't know who else you'd be trading for, unless it's the third baseman. Michael Kramer says B+ for both teams. Yeah, I'd agree. Should I get a Polanco jersey? Well, there's one guaranteed year that you'd be wearing it. Likely a second year that you'd be wearing it. Cost aside, EEG, cost aside, would you prefer Polanco or Chapman? I want to say Polanco is going to be the better hitter. Plus, he's switch hitting, but let's just pull up Chapman's stats. I mean, Matt Chapman is a perennial potential platinum glove winner every year at third base, but I want to say his strikeout percentage is up there. Let's go to Matt Chapman's strikeout percentage is like 28%, 27%. Let's go to Baseball Savant. Also for Polanco. And do you guys think that another trade's going to happen? Who would you trade for at this point? And something realistic. I mean, I don't know how realistic trading just for Paredes would be. I mean, Matt Chapman, he hits the ball hard. He barrels the balls, but strikeout rate's up there. Here's Jorge Polanco's Baseball Savant page. Expected slug is up there. Weighted on base average. Barrel percentage is up there. Sweet spot. He walks a decent amount. Chapman also walks a decent amount. It shows Jorge Polanco's fielding not being great. Let's go back to 22. Pretty much the same. So it doesn't show Polanco as being the best fielder as far as range and arm strength is concerned, but and his sprint speed has gone down, as you might imagine, with ankle and knee injuries. Matt Chapman. He hits the ball really hard, obviously. Matt Chapman had seasons with 27 home runs, but, do you want a guy 27 home runs with a 210 average or 230 average. Polanco last year against lefties hit 310, which is insane, but he's a career like 270 hitter from both sides of the plate. Polanco is. So if you could be playing Polanco every day as a switch hitter, I think you would. Of course, they fill different holes. Matt Chapman's third base, Jorge Polanco second base, but I would say Polanco in that case. Yeah, E. Dixon, last minute Mariners are including cash after all. I want to say it was $500,000. It wasn't anything crazy. I think it was to just cover desk. I could be wrong, but let me just look. Mariners cash. Mariners including cash. I want to say it was just to make the deal even. So I think it was only like $500,000 or around there. But yeah, what do you guys think of the trade? What would you grade it? What other moves do you think the Mariners should make? Let me ask this. Would you guys rather have Julio batting 2 or 3 in this lineup? JP Crawford then Julio with Jorge Polanco 3? Or now do you go JP Crawford 1, Jorge Polanco 2, Julio 3, Mitch Garber? I don't think there's any wrong way to go about it because, part of it is of course you want Julio to have as many at bats as possible. So do you bat Julio second so that later in the game, if it comes down to it, Julio's the last at bat instead of Jorge Polanco? Or would you rather have Julio at the 3 spot so that if JP Crawford, Jorge Polanco get on base, then Julio has a chance to drive in 3 runs instead of 2? And also, I saw people with lineups having Cal Raleigh at 3 or 4. I just think there's too much swing and miss with Cal Raleigh that you have to have Mitch Garber at cleanup, bat Cal Raleigh 5. Mitch Garber is going to have a quality at bat every time he's up there. And he's going to make hard contact when there's the opportunity to. Cal Raleigh obviously has the serious pop, but there's just too much swing and miss to bat him higher, in my opinion. Ian says, opening day left fielder, Canzone or Haniger against a right-handed pitcher. Well, if they're going to platoon, then you would assume that Canzone would be starting, right? And at that same, assumption, you would assume that Dominic Canzone is going to get quite a bit more at bats than Mitch Haniger, because a lot of the guys that are going to be pitching are right-handed pitchers. So you would figure that Dominic Canzone would be getting quite a bit more at bats than Haniger. And with Haniger, you are definitely trying to manage his health, keep him healthy. You're not wanting him to be on the field every day. So if Haniger is taking more of a backup role to Dominic Canzone and allow him to start to get some exposure, and because you look at Dominic Canzone's numbers in the minor leagues, even back to college, the guy can hit. He makes contact with the ball. He had like a batting average above 300 all throughout college and with some serious pop too. So I would imagine that Dominic Canzone would be starting opening day if there's a right-handed pitcher on the mound. And then if there's a lefty, late game, then that's where maybe potentially Haniger comes in for Dominic Canzone to pinch hit. Michael says that he's hearing rumors that we might be good next year. Can I confirm? Yeah, I think the Mariners are going to be good this year. I think so. It's one of those things like you're standing right next to the cliff, and then slowly you back up as more moves, keep happening. Because when the start of the offseason started, the Geno trade, Kelnick, as we talked, ad nauseum about all these different trades that are happening. It's like the sky's falling. What is going on? The Mariners suck again. They're rebuilding all this stuff. But look at this lineup. You cannot say that that's a bad lineup whatsoever. That's a solid lineup. So yes, Michael, I do think that the rumors are true. It seems that the Mariners might be good. Mr. Dog is right. Dude, let's go M's. Quietly looking good. Donald Trump is in the chat. He says if they can move France for a better first baseman, they would look really good. If Ty France, the whole driveline baseball thing, great. But you look at Ty France from like 2 years ago, 2021. If you get Ty France from 2021, game over. If your eight hitter is hitting 291, 18 bombs, 73 RBIs, Ty France. Okay, Ty France's down year in 2023 was league average. And everyone's asking to trade Ty France right now because he had a league average year. But then look at his prior years. Since he came up to the big leagues in 2020 was 28% above average. 2021, 28%. 2022 is all-star year, 25% above average. Ty France is a solid hitter. If you have him, even if you have him hit average, if you had him reproduce last year at the 8th spot, sure there's room for improvement and he can do much better. But Ty France is a hitter, as is Dominic Canzone. And I mean, my only thing with France being at first base is that, maybe with the bigger bases, it gives him some more room to, not get injured. Because that's the only big concern is, he got injured in Oakland that one play, and he's been trending downward since then. So. So. All right, I'm trying to catch up on the chats here. Yeah, someone says Jerry deserves an A- on this trade. I wouldn't argue with that. B+, A-, somewhere in that range. I mean, like I mentioned, the really only impact that you gave up was Justin Topa. Gabriel Gonzalez was going to be a solid. He has been a solid prospect for the Mariners, but Justin Topa with the injury concern, you were able to, and also Desclafani, you're not really giving up all that much for Jorge Polanco for the next 2 years. Yeah, people say cash. I want to say it was like $500,000. I'm trying to find the actual amount of cash that we're going back. Let me see if I can find this. Oh, paywall. I see okay, never mind. I see a Twins Twitter account that's saying they fleeced us. Not so much. Brandon asked if they could add a bench piece. Of course, there's always room to add a bench piece. I don't know who they would get, because also you have, Brian Bliss that can potentially come up at any point. Zach DeLoach, Tyler Locklear. these other guys that instead of going and trading for another, bench guy or signing a bench guy, you have your bench guy pretty close to making his MLB debut. Only trade I see would be a prospect for a relief pitcher. I mean, you look at the bullpen. We'll go back to here. You go back to the Mariners bullpen, and I think it's pretty built out. As I mentioned, you don't see Carlos Vargas or Jurickson, Kowar on here. That's a pretty well built out bullpen. You only have 2 lefties in the bullpen. They might probably need another lefty arm in the bullpen, if anything. Chris says, go look at Adam Frazier and Jorge Polanco career comparison on Baseball Reference. They're eerily similar. I will not do that. I will not put myself through that. I will not put the Adam Frazier reference out there in relation to Jorge Polanco. A couple different opinions here on Julio batting 2 or 3. Stu Diston says B trade overall. Julio batting 3rd, let the contact guys get on. Yeah, I've been starting to think that also. Initially had Julio 2, but then, yeah, you'd rather have Julio at the 3 spot driving, those 2 guys plus himself versus just JP and himself, Julio. Another opinion here is Max. I like Julio at 2 because he also provides speed for Polanco. I mean, really, there's no wrong way to go about that. That was my initial thought at putting Julio at 2, the power speed. And then before they got Polanco, I had Luke Raley batting 3rd because at that point in time, it's like you want, in my opinion, when you're building out a roster, sure, act like you're playing MLB The Show a little bit. Who are you going to put 2 and 3? Probably the best power speed guys. You want to get on base. You want the speed and power threat. And then beyond that, that's when you get the power heavy guys that can't really run. Drive in those top 3 guys. That's where, if Luke Raley's batting 7, 8, that's a good thing with his potential too. Just happy Cal is batting 5th with the demands of catcher will only help him. Yeah. I don't think Cal should not be batting 3, probably not 4. I think 5 is a good spot for him. Where'd I get those signs in the back? So those are called Hex Head Art, HEX Head Art. They're actual like metal signs. I'm not affiliated or sponsored or anything. They're awesome signs. Go check them out. Hex Head Art. They have every sport, every team. It's a solid man cave sports room edition. Jeff says, I'm kind of casual. What's good about this acquisition? What's good about this acquisition is that you acquire an everyday second baseman. So instead of Josh Rojas, who, is basically just a defender. Let me pull up Josh Rojas. Josh Rojas, don't get me wrong, had a solid last month and he's got potential. But as far as impact, Jorge Polanco is a potential all-star guy. Like the earlier comment about Adam Frazier. Adam Frazier was an all-star guy before the Mariners traded for him. And then we also know what happened with Adam Frazier. But this gives you a switch hitter that is going to be playing every day at second base. And you plug him right into the 2 spot in your lineup. So you go from having the 8-9 spots being Josh Rojas and Luis Arias to now adding Jorge Polanco at 2, move everyone else down a slot. And now you just have that 9 spot with Luis Arias. And, now I'm curious if Josh Rojas and Luis Arias will be doing a time split at third base, if they're platooning at third base. Because Luis Arias is a right-handed batter, Josh Rojas lefty. So now you have much more depth and options. Jorge Polanco's under contract for 2 years. And let me pull up Jorge Polanco's. So Josh Rojas, his OPS, over his career. Josh Rojas has played in the league for 5 years, really 3 years to where he's been playing pretty much every day. And in each of those years, he's right at a league average hitter. 2023, he was 20% below league average. But then you go to Jorge Polanco. And Jorge Polanco is a career 270 hitter from both sides of the plate. He's OPSing, OPS plus about 15 to 25% better than the average hitter. So you go from a league average to a guy that's a solid above average hitter from both sides of the plate. Ty France masks his bad offense by stepping into pitches, except if you look at his stats, he's got solid offense. But he does stand over the plate, and I think he's said that he's not going to change that. World Series run, yes or no? Yes, of course, every year. Still worthwhile to add free agent relief pitcher. Yeah, I mean, it's never a bad thing to add depth into your bullpen. You never know who's going to perform for you. Like these, Spire, Topa, Saucedo, all these guys that none of us knew about until the Mariners acquired them. So they obviously know how to find talent and go get it. As I mentioned with the bullpen, there's still room to add a lefty. There's only 2 left-handed relief pitchers in the bullpen right now. So a lefty reliever might be helpful. Hancock help in the bullpen? I don't know. I mean, he could be a long relief guy this year if you want to go that route. Worst case scenario, he's just waiting in the minor leagues, getting reps in case there are any injuries. The Mariners have been, aside from Robbie Ray and Marco Gonzalez last year, the past few years, they've been pretty solid as far as pitching health is concerned. So Hancock is really a depth piece there. Let's hope, I guess, let's hope we see him in the long relief role, if at all, this next year. Yeah, fake name says, just imagine what we could have accomplished this offseason without one hand tied behind our back. True. But then that wouldn't be any fun to just go sign Shohei Ohtani and Bellinger and Snell and all these things. That would just be that wouldn't be fun at all. Now I'd much prefer the Dipoto way to just, have high blood pressure the entire offseason for like 5 months. And then you wake up in a spring training and it's like, hey, this roster actually isn't bad. Chris says, can't wait to see Canzone for a full season. I'll make a player profile on him at some point because, yeah, I mean, his numbers throughout college and minor leagues, solid. He's a solid hitter. Stack asks, shouldn't the Mariners go out and get a left-handed starting pitcher? In my opinion, the starting rotation doesn't really, in my opinion, the handiness doesn't really matter for a starting rotation. If you're going up against Luis Castillo, George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller, Brian Wu, it doesn't matter if they're throwing from the right side or the left side. Good luck trying to hit those guys. It doesn't matter that they're all righties. They all have completely different looks, different arsenals. I was talking with Pete Woodworth, and I mentioned that on MLB Network last year, there was a visual that showed, the starting pitchers and their arm slots. You got Logan Gilbert, Bryce Miller over the top, and then the Mariners starting rotation kind of works down to the side to where now you have Brian Wu that's coming out of the sprinkler is how he said it. You got Brian Wu, Luis Castillo, and then you got George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, all those guys. It's just a totally different look each day that you're facing the Mariners rotation. even if they're all throwing it with the same arm, right? It looks totally different, and hitters are not going to hit them any better just because they all throw from the right side, in my opinion. When you get into the bullpen, that's when it makes more sense to have more of a, lefty righty split somewhat, at least have some options so that if there are left-handed bats or right-handed bats that have extreme splits against the same handiness, then you have a guy that can go against him. But in the starting rotation, it's like, go throw out any of those righties for 6 innings a night and you're going to get a win. Let's see if there's any other updates here. Oh, I haven't really talked about this yet, but if you have some downtime or right now, go check out couchgm.co. So put it in the go check out. I just posted a link in there. If you copy and paste it into your browser, that's the website that I just got done. So I'll be making some tweaks to that as we go along, but got a website in place. We're going to be having some merchandise, hopefully, available for pre-order later this week if you're a Mariners fan. So be on the lookout for that stuff. I'll probably throw together a standalone Jorge Polanco trade video after we get off the live stream here. So if you have any comments, questions, topics, let me know. I'll stay on for like 5 more minutes or so, and then we'll hop off and I'll go work on that video. But yeah, again, looking at this lineup. Oh, and here's the website also. And then also, if you didn't know, we're expanding. So, I've been talking baseball basically since the start of the channel. I brought on Kat Tar and Laura Schott. I just knew them locally. They're both realtors. They both played professional soccer in the U.S. as well as overseas. They know what they're talking about with soccer. They're going to be getting some really cool guests on for their podcast. It's called the Soccer Moms Podcast is what they're going to be going with. And then also Will Ortner in the bottom right there. He played football at Central Washington. He's going to be the Couch GM football guy. So it's going to be a lot of good content coming out. So make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Go follow me across social medias. If you sign up to the newsletter, you go to the website, enter your email address into the newsletter here. You'll be getting a weekly email with updates on Couch GM content and other stuff as we have it. So but yeah, all right, guys. Thanks for tuning in, hanging out. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Be on the lookout for my Jorge Polanco trade video as I get that posted. I'll probably post it tonight. And thank you all for your support, and we'll see you soon.